Welcome everyone, my name is John, and together with my wife Joni, we have the enormous privilege of leading the Hull Vineyard Church community. Such an honor to be able to speak to you today. Thank you for taking the time out to listen to me as we introduce a really important, timely subject called the hope effect. The hope effect. Hope is so crucial, particularly in the times that we find ourselves in at the moment. And hope is at the core, it's at the center of the Christian faith. I love it how Ruthie Kim puts it. Do not underestimate hope. Hope is fierce. It carries us through the night until the morning comes. And I believe it is an amazing moment for the hope of Jesus and the hope of the gospel to step into our hopelessness, step into our roots, if you like, and where we can truly experience and encounter the power of hope. A hope that is living, a hope that is sure and good and carries with it such joy and peace and life and freedom. Never before has it become so obvious that maybe some of the things where we have placed our hope, that we're seeing those things fail. Just jotted a few things down here. In this season we've tried government and we've tried media, we've tried technology and medicine and the rule of law and human goodness and self-help and the economy and a positive outlook and hope in myself and hope in education. And we've seen this year all these hopes just fail before us. Maybe the foundation of our lives where we've placed our hope in some of these things. I'm sure you've got your own thoughts and own ideas of where you've placed your own hope in and seen them not work out. And the Bible has this amazing verse, which just isn't true because God said it, but it is the truth because instinctively and subjectively we all know it to be true. And it's this, Proverbs 13 verse 12, a hope deferred makes the heart sick. A hope deferred makes the heart sick. And I don't know about you, but this has certainly been the experience of my life, is that when we wait so long for something so precious, our hopes can rise and they can die 100 times over. And heart sickness becomes a constant companion in our lives. Deferred hope creates heart sickness, which then creates physical sickness in our lives. Few experiences put our faith in the flames for so long, but few experiences have as much potential to change us for the better. The pastor Paul Tripp puts it like this: waiting or hoping is not about what you get at the end of the wait. It's about what you become as you wait. God stands ready to use the fire of waiting and hoping to mold our faith, to melt away our dross and bring us out on the other side refined. Friends, the agony that we all experience of waiting, of denial, of dreaming, of delay, the highs and lows of hope and hopelessness marks all of us, whether that's in relationships, whether it's in the hope of and for a spouse, the hope for a child, the hope of a job, of a house, of a decision, of forgiveness, so many things. And let me distill this even further with real life scenarios right now because of the pandemic. Entrepreneurs who have had to stop their dream because of COVID, grandparents not being able to hug their grandchildren, pastors all over the world not able to do church as normal and gather again. Look at all the weddings and the funerals where they're being filled with uncertainty and limitations and the wearing of masks and all these various guidelines. We are living in absolute denial and hype if we don't recognize that the battle for hope is something that you and I and our community is living with every single day. But friends, this is what we want. The words of Isaiah say it so well. Do you not know? Have you not heard? The Lord is the everlasting God, the creator of the ends of the earth. He will not grow tired or weary, and his understanding no one can fathom. He gives strength to the weary and increases the power of the weak. Even youths grow tired and weary, and young men stumble and fall. But those who hope, underline this in your Bible, those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not be faint. Here you have the exact opposite of heart sickness and a deferred hope. But when you place your hope in the Lord, you will renew your strength. You'll be strong when you have hope in God and hope in the right person, the right place. You will soar on wings like eagles. You will run and not grow weary. You will walk and not be faint. Such powerful, powerful words. It's fuel for the tank on the journey of your life. You can have the most beautiful, amazing car. It's incredible. But if it has no fuel in it, it can't go anywhere. And I believe that can really describe many of us in our Christian walk, is that on the surface it looks like we've got everything together. But actually, if we do not have true, living, sure hope as our anchor in our lives, then we do not have the fuel for the journey. It means that we have that potential to quit on God, on our faith, on church, on life when things get really tough. Now let me just define hope for a moment in this series. Hope is not a feeling addressed to our emotions. Hope is a decision addressed to our wills. Hope is a decision to believe God for a good future based on the way God has worked on the past. That's why frequently you'll read in the Psalms, you'll see the word remember. When they're going through difficult times, is that they look back and they remember what God has done, and therefore it says that they have hope. Hope says, I have a future. Hope says, blessing is coming to me. Hope says, what God started, he will complete, and what God promised, he will certainly fulfill. It's hope that sustains us in hard times, and it's hope that causes us to crash through the quitting points. Whether it's in the quitting points in marriage, or the quitting points in school or college or university or on a job or with life itself. Hope is what always helps you crash through the quitting points, because you believe, no matter what the circumstances or the situation, is you believe in a good future for yourself and others because of the goodness of God and the purposes of God. Let me give you a really simple illustration to break this down. Imagine there are two people called Jack and Jill who are hired at a debt recovery center, and they both make minimum wage. The only difference is that Jill is promised that by the end of the year she's going to get a £25 million bonus. Now Jack's not promised anything. The job is miserable, all day on the phone, screamed at by people who they're trying to collect from. Their boss is awful. He keeps pressing them for a certain rate of collection. Their co-workers are also negative. The job is awful. And Jack tells Jill, I'm going to look for another job. I cannot work here for another month. And Jill says, oh, I don't think it's so bad. I'm definitely going to work here at least a year. What's the difference between Jack and Jill? Well, it's obvious. It's their expectation of the future. Jill has hope. Jill believes good things in the form of £25 million is coming to her, so she hangs in there. Jack doesn't have the hope, so he quits. Everything turns on our expectation of the future. Our current mood is largely determined whether we have hope or not. Our current level of joy, our depression, even our physical health is all and often dependent on the level of our hope. Let me really introduce this series by distilling and simplifying this to one thought. Hope is either placed in the Creator or created things. When that is in the wrong order, that is when we encounter problems. Actually, the battle for hope is actually a battle for worship. The wonderful theologian and teacher and author Christopher Wright puts it like this: idolatry dethrones God and enthrones creation. And we see this in Romans 1 verse 25. They exchanged the truth about God for a lie and worshipped and served created things rather than the Creator, who is forever praised. Amen. God is reduced and his power is limited and authority is usurped. And instead created things which were meant for our blessing and proper use is credited with a power that only belongs to God, and it's worshipped. And we look for ultimate meaning, we look for life from things and people rather than God. That is what happens when we put our hope in created things and not the Creator. A great reversal happens. And when this happens, and we're seeing this in society right now, is there is devastating personal and social consequences that follow. So let me break this down even further. We often place our hope in based on two things: what entices us and what we trust in. Now, things that entice us, there are things in creation that are so awe-inspiring, beyond our reach and control, our understanding so much that they exercise an enticing attraction to us. This is one of the most subtle dangers of the so-called Insta life, what we see on social media. The appearance of what Psalm 96 talks about when looking at God, the appearance of splendor and majesty and strength and glory in things that are not God. And we see those things and we see a projection of those things and we long for them. We put our hope in them. We enticed by them. We may see it in a leader that we admire. We see it in sporting heroes or movie celebrity or the glare of the TV or corporate power and greed or music. But we will not find genuine deity in these places or people, but only in the presence of God alone. And then things that we trust. Where we place our trust is really an indicator of where our hope is and the promises implied in them. And then we often make sacrifices, whether it's an investment of our thought life, an investment of time, or ultimately actually our money, in order to gain the hope that is promised. And that's particularly prevalent right now with financial security, especially in a season like this where there's that temptation to hoard and protect what we have at the fear of losing things, instead of stepping in to the moment that we're in, which is to radical kingdom biblical generosity. Same goes relationally. We make gods out of people as they are the only ones that could provide security or comfort. Now, how do we know whether we have hope in the wrong things? Well, a major symptom is deep-seated disappointment. I'm not saying that we don't have genuine hope in things in life, genuine desires that God has given you. But when those things don't happen, when there's a denial or a delay, we don't fall apart because our hope is in the Creator God. And so a major symptom of where we may have hope in the wrong things or wrong places is really deep disappointment, which is a sign of misplaced hope. It's an emotional signal from our body that our hope was set on the wrong things. And essentially this is rooted in control. And some of us who like to be in control will find this pandemic particularly revealing in terms of where we place our hope. And it results in an anxiety epidemic, depression epidemic, rage, midlife crisis, political fury, work, an addiction to work. All these things happen because our identity has been in the wrong place. So we need a hope. And we need a hope that is sure and living and true. Hebrews 6 says this: we have this hope as an anchor for the soul, firm and secure. This is the kind of hope that we're looking for. Edmund Clowney says this: our hope is anchored. This is the truth for the Christian. Our hope is anchored in the past. Jesus rose. Our hope remains in the present. Jesus lives. Our hope is completed in the future. Jesus is coming. So powerful. I have hope, and you should have hope in any situation, whether disappointment comes or a setback happens, because I have bet my life on this one truth, that Jesus, who was crucified for my sins, rose from the dead. Jesus' resurrection began a chain reaction that will result in me and every other follower of Christ also being resurrected from the dead. You see, the only sure and firm hope is based on what can't be taken from you. If you're building your hope all the time, really building for the anchor of your soul and the roots of your life on something you can lose, then that's not a sure hope at all. If you're hoping, for example, in yourself, in the fact that you've always been able to succeed in whatever you put your mind to achieve, guaranteed at some point you're going to have a crisis that you will not be able to push through on your own. You're going to get old, you're going to get sick, you're going to have a family problem, you're going to grieve. Life in this world is hard. If your hope is in yourself, life is going to teach you that your wits alone, your grit, your hard work is going to fail when you encounter a problem that you can't fix. If you're putting your hope in a financial plan in the stock market, your plans and the stock market could all crash. If you're building your hope on another person, on your family, you can lose loved ones, you can be betrayed. Friend, what are you hoping in that can't be taken from you? And the only sensible way is to live and build your hope on something that can never be taken or shaken. Jesus says the only sensible way to live is to put your hope in what you can't lose. Listen, sure hope is available only to people who believe in something beyond this world and beyond this life. If you're an atheist listening to this, you can't have a sure hope because you don't think there is any reality to anything beyond this world. Christian hope produces incredible fruit in the life of a Christian. When you set your hope not on something that can be taken from you, but set your hope on God because of the resurrection of Jesus from the dead, the Bible lists dozens of good things that will be produced in our lives. Things like joy and confidence no matter what happens. If you can set your hope fully on God and not on something that can be taken from you, the Bible says that hope will produce an ability to rejoice in suffering, patience in waiting, and good character. We read this in Romans 5, and we boast in the hope of the glory of God. Not only so, but we also glory in our sufferings, because we know that suffering produces perseverance, character, and character, hope. If you set your hope entirely in God and not in what can be taken from you, you'll be able to keep praying without giving up. Here's what it says in Romans 12, verse 12, be joyful in hope, patient in affliction, faithful in prayer. What a great mandate and manifesto for our lives, particularly in this season. So I want to encourage you as we look next week and we look at what does it mean to have biblical hope and live in that tension of the now and the not yet of the kingdom, the cultural moment of where we are right now, where we're living in uncertainty. And there's some practical ways we can camp around hope in these days. And then finally, we're going to look at what does it mean for us as a church to be a community of hope, impacting our city and beyond. Remember, we're here for you. We love you. We're thankful to God for you. Please join us tomorrow. We're going to pray on Zoom at 8 o'clock in the morning, and then we'll be on Facebook Live at 7:30. Hope to see you there. God bless.